Alright guys, should I try for source? Should I try for source? Should I just go with this? We'll just go with it for now. Maybe we'll try source on a different day, but going into the first game, it's gonna be Soulkey versus his opponent Mini. And both of these players pretty good right now. I know I said it a lot in the last cast that we did with Mini. I said he's a bit of a cheesier player. You can definitely expect some tricky stuff from him, and a lot of people are upset by that, but I stand by it. Mini's kind of a cheesy player. But Soulkey, very straightforward, very a normal sort of ZVP player. He's not going to do anything super crazy. By the way, guys, let me know if the audio levels are good for you guys, because the casters sound a little bit louder to me today, but I could be wrong. Anyhow, so I talked about a little bit yesterday about how it's pretty interesting that ZVP in the recent last couple of weeks has been heading back towards more mobile, more counterattack styles. That when we looked at ZVP during ASL 3, during the SSL Classic, etc., there was a lot of this 3-hatch Hydra bus, 5-hatch Hydra bus, 5-hatch Hydra bus into drops, etc., etc. So there was a lot of emphasis on getting these big Hydra mid-game armies and adding on lurkers, going Hydra lurker and stuff like that. But recently we've been seeing a swing back towards big, more mobile armies, going just straight into Mutiling and just not really threatening the Protoss like directly, but anytime the Protoss tries to move out, the Lings can just wrap around and snipe the third base, and there's not enough units in position, stuff like that. And it's really interesting to see that sort of playstyle come out. And I think honestly, it's probably more of an artifact of the maps. We have lots of 3-player maps in this map pool, and 3-player maps are always really good for counterattacking because you can't really cover them quite as well when you're attacking. There aren't very there's always ways to flank around because the bases aren't in the corners, so it's really cool to actually see this. Hey there, Vitali. It's Soulkey versus Mini in this game. We have a pretty standard Forge Fast Expand coming out right now. Meanwhile, it looks like we are going to be seeing that triple hatch, the third hatch up in the top right-hand corner for Soulkey. So he is going to be playing a lot more of that far away playstyle. That tells me that he's definitely playing to the late game here. He's going to be going for the late game, maybe going to Hive up against Mini, but we'll have to see what Mini decides to do. We saw some pretty interesting builds yesterday. For instance, I think it was who was that? I have such a hard time remembering what happens from day to day. It was Free. Free did a really weird Zealot legs attack early on. He just skipped Corsairs entirely for the early part of the game and actually just went for a big Zealot attack, and it worked out really well for him, surprisingly. Effort scouted the entire thing. He just didn't have enough units in position to deal with it. Ended up losing quite a lot, but there is the possibility that Mini could try something like that as well. It's a very interesting build, and it's one that I've really enjoyed watching in more recent months. I believe somebody did it in ASL 3 as well. They went a Zealot attack into double Stargate. It's a really interesting build that forces the Zerg player to tech switch really hard, which is something that you don't normally see is Protoss dictating the tech switches, but when Protoss can dictate the tech switches like that, it really makes a lot of... It makes it really easy for the Protoss to actually take that third base because the Zerg player is kind of stuck in between, do I drone, do I make Sunkens versus Spores, etc. So, Cybernetic score coming down, we're going to find out. Ooh, +1 is coming out already, so definitely going to see a Zealot attack coming out at some point. We're going to have to see if he does. He is going to go for the Zealot legs. So I predicted this. I'm a god. We're going to see the Zealot legs coming out, and the natural follow-up to that is the double Stargate. But he may just decide to go into Templar Archives and go to Zealot Archon as well. That's also a possibility. We'll have to see how well Soulkey's able to scout all this out and respond. It's a very strong attack. It's very difficult to actually deal with it.
제가 알기로는 김태경 선수가 스폰빵 정말 그 연승 그게 제일 최고 기록으로 알고 있는데 야, 그러면 이 팀 배틀도 그러면 연승
So 3 gates so far. Let's see if he puts the 4th gate at his natural. Sometimes Protoss players will spread out their gateways and make it difficult to actually scout. But only 3 gateways is a little surprising. That tells me that he's definitely planning up a follow-up in tech. Not planning to go too heavy into those zealots. So really cool stuff. I really like seeing this sort of play coming out from Mini right now. And meanwhile, a couple of Lings are coming out across the map right now. They're going to be scouting out the front, seeing what's going on. I'm sure that Soulkey saw the forge spinning really early, so he's got to know that this is coming at some point in the next minute or so. So he's going to be getting up that 4th, maybe the 5th hatchery. I think maybe going for a 5th hatchery is dangerous in this position. I haven't played against this too much, so I don't know what the exact answer is, but usually you would go for the just 5th hatchery and then go up to your Hydralisk and the Evo chamber from there, but he may decide to actually just stop on 4 and go straight into the Hydras to deal with this, but a couple of Zealots moving out right now, and the Stargate's already started, so it looks like this isn't going to be a very dedicated attack. Mini's only going to be going up to maybe 6 or 7 Zealots before he actually moves out with the Zealot legs. And he's just going to be biding his time until he gets his Corsairs out, hoping that Soulkey overreacted by scouting this. +1 is about to finish, and this is where it starts to get really scary. Here come the legs as well. The first Mutalisks are out. They're going to be able to push this back. This is a very smart decision from Soulkey. Just go ahead and get the Mutalisks out, and you kind of guarantee that these Zealots can be chased away. The Zealot's going to actually still do quite a bit of damage to this 3rd base if Soulkey doesn't respond fast enough. There's only one of those sunken colonies there, but luckily it is in the middle of the mineral line, so he can glitch out these Zealots quite a bit with the drones. Still, he doesn't have any units in position to deal with this right now, and Soulkey is just actually Ling's running the wrong direction. They're not prepared to deal with this, and he's actually going to evacuate the drones, just completely unprepared to deal with this sort of pressure coming in from Mini. A couple of Zealots try to run in there into the main, but they're not going to be able to get too much. He's just, Soulkey's deciding to just clean up this base with Mutalisks instead, not going to commit a whole bunch of Lings to it, which may be smart, but it's going to take a lot of damage before these Zealots finally go down. And meanwhile, behind this, High Templar coming out, +1 air weapons as well as Corsairs, so lots of tech coming out from Mini. He's going to be able to take the tech advantage pretty soon, but the fact that Soulkey didn't lose mini drones and didn't lose that 3rd base means he's in a pretty good spot coming up here. So this is actually quite good overall from Soulkey. He's going to keep building the Scourge and the Mutalisks and just focus on deflecting any more attacks that come his way. He might even try to go for bust timing right now, and there's only 1 Zealot here and 2 cannons and not much to defend. The Scourge are here. They're going to be able to push back the these Corsairs once they get here. Only 1 Archon out right now, and that's going to be able to push back the Mutalisks as well. So this isn't going to be an outright win, but that could have been a very scary timing right there. A couple more Scourge walking in, just kind of dying. Not sure what happened there. That could have been a lot worse than it actually was, but still, this is good for Soulkey because behind that, he's been droning up. He's been getting a very nice saturation at his bases, so he's going to be in a really good spot to go into the big Hydra Flood coming up pretty soon. And the Hydra Flood's going to do very well against the Zealot Archon that's coming out. One Zealot getting in here, it's actually going to get into the main, I think. Wow. 3 health left on that. It will eventually go down to that Ling that was chasing it, but lots of Scourge here. It's going to be really difficult to actually get in here with these Corsairs and actually stop the Mutalisks from doing this harassment. But Soulkey pulling back right now. He's just focusing on containing his opponent while he gets all his tech up, while he gets his economy out. And Soulkey actually playing pretty immaculately this game. I'm quite impressed how well he's been playing overall in this game.
야, 근데 지금 또 중요한 거는 변현재 선수가 질럿 악한 모험.
Edgewater says SK is so committed. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think he's got plenty of economy behind this, and he's getting all of his upgrades. This is a really good position for Soulkey. Honestly, he's not in. He's definitely not in a bad position at all. There's hardly any gateway units out, and the Corsair count's still pretty low that he can push this back with the Mutalisk and the Scourge. So overall, pretty good. Fourth base is about to go down for Soulkey up in that 12 o'clock position. Meanwhile, just getting all those upgrades, starting to pump out the Hydras right now. We'll see if he goes up to a very scary mass of, you know, like 2-3 dozen, or if he decides to just go small and focus on lurker defense while he takes up the hive. Knowing Soulkey generally likes to go for those big Hydra armies. So it would make sense for Soulkey to go really heavily into the Hydras, get a very big mid-game army. But we'll have to see what his tech decision is coming out. And it looks like Mini's actually moving out on the map right now. I'm not sure if this is a take a third in that 6 o'clock base, or if it's a really threatened attack. But either way, Soulkey is prepared if an attack comes by. He's got units both at his third base and his natural, so he's going to be able to defend pretty well if he does, if Mini decides to commit to an attack. I wish we could see the how far along the lurker upgrade is, because that's one of the most important upgrades coming up right now. When you're up against this Zealot Archon, lurkers are so important because they just shred through all of those zealots. Mini is slowly taking his third base. I think he's finally taking his third base down here in the 6 o'clock position. And this is smart because we talked about this a little bit yesterday as well. When you take your base going towards your opponent on this map, it makes it so much easier to deal with counterattacks and things like that, because when you push towards your opponent's main in this position, while taking that third base behind it, you're protecting both bases at the same time with the push. Normally the problem you have with third bases is you always leave an opening in your opponent, for your opponent to counterattack rather, but it's much harder in this position with this third base. Still a couple of Lings do get down to the third base. They may be able to snipe a couple of units, but Mini smartly placing a few units there. He's going to be able to clean that up pretty nicely. And interesting, we already have drops coming in, so we're going to be seeing Reavers coming out pretty soon. Another counterattack coming in here while this army is up at the third base of Soulkey. There's a couple of lurkers. They're going to be able to push this back, which is really nice. So well played by Soulkey. He's getting value all over the map, being smart about knowing that his opponent doesn't have those observers yet. He can push it back with just a few lurkers. And not playing overly defensively. Continuing to gain this map control and flying around these Mutalisk and the Scourge. And these... Oh. Wow, I'm really surprised that Soulkey didn't commit there. He definitely could have picked off at least 3 or 4 of those Corsairs and done some serious damage, but instead decides to just pull back, not commit to killing that. And Soulkey just doing a really good job. He's pushing out these creep colonies. He's going to build a couple spores to push back the possibility of any observers getting on top of those lurkers. And this fourth base already saturated, so lots of income coming in from Soulkey right now. He's probably taking up the hive as we speak, and we'll see if he switches into that heavier Ling Defiler lurker style coming up pretty soon. Surely once he starts getting all those upgrades for the Lings, he'll be pumping out quite a bit of them. Lings are very cost effective against gateway units, so wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. But Mini actually catching up, going for that fourth base immediately while he has this small amount of map control, and the Zerg is taking the hive. So very good response by Mini to just identify the small weaknesses in his opponent's build and have units in the right position, both threatening the or scouting out the third base and threatening the natural at the same time. So cool stuff so far from both players. This is honestly one of the highest level games that we've seen in the tournament so far, so I've really been enjoying this. Mini just always, he's so smart about just always leaving a couple of units at these bases to deal with any sort of Ling or Mutalisk counterattacks, and the first shuttle's out with 2 Reavers. Let's see if Mini decides to go for a drop. I think maybe a drop play this late in the game is not a great idea unless you go for the storm drop. Instead, he's probably just going to be joining this up with his army and going for a big frontal push with the Reaver shots. And third base, not as quite developed as this natural for Soulkey, so Soulkey's going to have to make sure that he scouts this out and has units in position in time to deal with it. Hopefully the 90s canal is finished so he can immediately teleport up there, but Mini's going for the big attack in the third, and this is going to be a make or break moment for Mini. If Mini manages to break this, the game will split wide open. But Soulkey's actually going to be going for counterattack instead. Oh gosh, there was a bug that just flew into my eyes. Oh god. So the first attack is coming in. Very nice split on these lurkers so far, but the Reavers are slowly going to be able to push this back. This does have a bit of a time limit because it is going to take a long time to actually kill this, but if that Hydra Ding goes down, it's going to be much harder to actually defend this. That means there's going to be no more lurkers coming out after that. It's going to be relying entirely on cracklings for the defense, but Soulkey going in for the big surround. He's got a big army coming in from the backside. Not a lot behind this though, so I'm a little bit worried about him actually trying to sandwich this army. So smart from Mini. He leaves one zealot behind to scout this flank coming in. He knows what's going to happen, so this is just like brilliant from Mini. Mini is playing probably one of the best PvZs I've seen in recent months, and wow, just perfectly having those zealots in position to break this push that's coming in, but managed to push this back, clean this up, whittle away some of the units. This isn't horrible for Soulkey so far because he's still holding the line, but he needs to stop hemorrhaging units up there at his third base. He needs to collect them behind the Sunkens and just wait for the front wall to go down. Once the front wall goes down, then he can easily clean up this army. Meanwhile, he really does need to be doing a counterattack, but some DTs and some zealots coming into the main base for Mini. If Soulkey doesn't realize that that's there, he could lose quite a bit. And looks like they're going to go straight for the middle line. They're not going to focus on the attack. And Soulkey realizing what's going on, and immediately pulling the drones. But this third base is in a lot of danger. Looks like Mini is actually going to pull off of that. And they're killing off the Zergling, the spawning pool. So no more Zerglings, no more Cracklings are going to actually be able to reinforce. It's going to be entirely off the back of whatever Hydras he has left. And behind this, Mini taking a fifth as well. So really impressive play. Every time he attacks, you see it's always on the opposite side of where his army is. It's a very smart play. He moves up to the third base, takes that fourth down on the bottom left, and then he moves to the 9 o'clock position and takes his fourth at the 3 o'clock. Such smart play from Mini. Just brilliant tactical positioning. This is... I'm blown away, honestly. Yes, it's the Zergling Den. I will say it. I still call it the Ultra Den as well, because I don't even know what it's called, like the Ultralisk Cavern, that's what it is. It's Ultra Den. So lots of units coming in right here, and the natural not as well defended as it used to be. There are no more Lings right now because of that spawning pool going down early on. But the Dark Swarms are going to be enough to push this back right now. With no Zealots, it's not going to be very strong. And big Storm Drop coming in here, that's going to kill off a handful of drones. Not the hugest deal, but still, definitely that's a full base of mining that is going to be stopped for right now. And Soulkey's just scrambling to keep up with this pressure that Mini's putting around the map. And meanwhile, Mini's just continuing to get that economy out, continue to pull ahead. And his main still isn't even mined out. This is rare. You never see Protoss up on bases like this, but Mini's just doing such a good job of controlling the map. And once this base goes up, it's going to be impossible for Soulkey to break it. This is the beginning of the end for Soulkey unless he can pull off a major upset by killing off this entire army with losing almost nothing. But it's pretty much impossible. Mini is maxed out, and there just isn't a lot that you can do against this gigantic death ball coming out from Protoss. The Hydra Den is going to be going down soon, and that means there's no more Hydras. Hopefully Soulkey made the Hydra Den in another place in anticipation of that going down. If not, that's going to be another rough couple of minutes while Soulkey scrambles to get his defenses in line. And Soulkey just continuing to control them, or Mini continuing to control the middle of the map and keep an eye on where his opponent is. A good play going down on that army, and oh, unfortunate, that drop gets cleaned up really nicely by those Scourge that were in position. A couple more Scourge are going to be there for any follow-up drops. And Soulkey honestly needs a miracle at this point. He's going to try to counterattack with just Lings, but there's so many cannons here now, it's not going to happen. It's going to be so difficult, and more Dark Templar in the main. Luckily, there's a couple of units that just happen to be in position to deal with this, so they're going to be able to push this back right now, but when Dark Templar escapes, let's see if Soulkey manages to actually chase it down. Good, he finds it in that corner. Very smart play to realize exactly how many Dark Templar were in his base. And meanwhile, trying to get this 5th base up. This isn't a huge deal at this point. Zerg only really needs the 4 bases, and Soulkey's still mining from his main, so it's not a huge deal. But the biggest problem is whenever you get in a split map position versus Terran or Protoss as Zerg, you're always gonna find yourself behind, because the longer the game goes on, you're not going to be able to make cost-efficient trades like they will, unless you get into very low economy situations. And we saw a little bit of that yesterday, where you get into super low economy situations and Lings actually clean up everything. But in this particular case, Soulkey is definitely in a lot of trouble if he can't continue to slow down his opponent's economy and clean it up. He does kill off all the cannons in that base, which is going to make it vulnerable for a follow-up Ling counterattack. More Lings coming in here. This is actually really huge. These Lings could actually snipe this Nexus and slow down Mini's economy greatly. So this is a very nice play from Soulkey, being all over the map at once. And yeah, he's definitely going to get that Nexus. Wow. So Soulkey suddenly starting to pull ahead now. He's got his 5th base out, rather. And he's going to be working on a 6th base pretty soon. These Lings are doing so much damage to these gateway units. There's no Archons in that army. So lots of units going down for free to the Lings. And this is what I'm talking about when you get into middle-ish numbers, then suddenly Lings are quite good. And maybe earlier in the game, it was good for Mini to split up his units. But at this point in the game, splitting up his units is being counterproductive for him, because they're just getting cleaned up by Lings. Dang grill. And these 2 Lings still alive and killing off probes. Wow, those are some hero Lings. More Lings just streaming across the map, and Soulkey actually doing an amazing job of keeping his opponent pinned back and actually finding damage. This is really impressive. He's not going to be able to clean up any of the other bases at this particular moment in time. The 4th base is way too protected. The 5th base as well, so Mini's okay for the time being, but he's got to be careful that he's not losing too many units to this harassment. Meanwhile, Soulkey just playing super defensively at home while sending out these Ling counterattacks. Eventually, this will be slowed down. I actually can't believe that Mini lost that 3rd like that, but I guess it's just one of those, you don't expect that route to come into your 3rd. You expect the Zerg player to attack your fringes, the 5th of the 6th base over there, sorry, the 4th of the 5th base, but not Soulkey. Soulkey is just continuing to ram down the middle of the map and try to pick off units, and lots of Archons here now, but even with, actually, wow, those Archons are pretty good. I think it was mostly those Reaver shots, though. And this is kind of a small Protoss army at this point. The Archons are a really nice touch, and having the Reavers is good as well, but at this point Mini needs to look toward retaking that 3rd base and taking that center expansion as well. He can't just continually let Soulkey trade into him. As long as he's already had a good portion of the minerals on the map, so as long as he plays defensively and just focuses on using DTs and drops to control the map, as well as this big central army, he'll be fine. He just needs to not take damage from all of these Ling counterattacks that are moving across the map. And a big drop coming in here right now. It's going to get Swarms on top of these cannons, and actually, I think he actually might be able to take down this Nexus if he focus fires that. And Mini just suddenly in a world of trouble. He's going to lose his 4th as well. He's going to try to do a Storm Drop as well as some DTs, but he's going to lose this base for sure, and this is looking really, really bad for Mini. I know we said just a little while ago that Zerg is 100% dead, but man, Soulkey's been able to claw his way back into this game with just really smart counterattacks, and Mini trying to kill off this base to get back into the game, but I don't think it's that big of a deal for Soulkey. Soulkey's still mining off of 4 bases, so he's not in any dire need of that middle expansion at this moment in time. I can't believe this is happening, guys. I can't.
자, 김민철이 본인의 페이스를 찾으면서
I can't believe this is actually happening, guys. So Mini is now on one mining base and a couple of minerals and stuff in his natural and main. He's trying to set up this central forward base, but there's so much Zerg now. Honestly, at this point, if Soulkey just relaxes and maxes out, he can do quite a bit of damage to his opponent. And unfortunately, those Corsairs not actually killing off that Overlord, so this Link should be able to clean it up. Soulkey trying to go in for a push right here. It's not going to work, but a really good Plague on all of those Protoss units. And Soulkey's just got complete control of the map. This is completely backwards from where it would have been. Mini just faltering right when he had absolutely the best map control in the world, and not being able to close out this game. This is looking really rough for him right now. He can continue to build kind of the ultimate army. Honestly, at this point, if you just turtle and transition into an ultimate army with carriers or something like that, something crazy like that, you can still come back in this game. But these small counterattacks are just doing so much damage. It's amazing. Look at that storm. What a god tier storm. Kills one Hydralisk. Oh gosh. But Soulkey just getting so much work done with small groups of units. Mini is going to be going in for a big attack right now. This is a bit of a Hail Mary. He's hoping that he can bust this space. He's got a lot of Archons, as well as some Reavers and just tons of Gateway units. So let's see if he can break this third base. If he can't break this third base, though, it's going to be practically over. Continuing to just kind of push up here, loses an Archon. He's going to lose another Archon on the high ground, maybe on a third one on that ramp. And Lurker drops! Lurker drops. Beautiful stuff from Soulkey. Unfortunately loses that one. Bit of a mistake there. And at this point, Mini is mining off of one base. This is atrocious. This is so bad for Mini. Despite having such good control in the earlier parts of the game, he's taking a lot of damage from these Lurkers, but he is eventually going to be able to break through. More Lurkers coming in, but they're just going to sit on top of the storm. That was not good from Soulkey, but he is getting lots of damage coming in, and these these Lings that come in may be able to clean up eventually. There's definitely running out of storms, definitely running out of scarabs on those Reavers, so this isn't the end of the world for Soulkey. Even if he loses this base, it's not that bad for him because he's still mining out for 3 more. But he needs to make sure he doesn't lose too much of these drones. They're transferring right through all of the Archons, but the Archons don't attack him. All the Archons going down, so it's just going to be just that hero Reaver, and that goes down as well. So Soulkey's cleaned this up. Soulkey's cleaned up the final big army of Mini, and I think this is going to be GG coming up very soon. Mini's got almost nothing left. He's got 1 mining base left, and Soulkey's just continuing to macro up. This is atrocious, and oh my gosh, even the drop being hunted down by these Scourge. So this is basically the end for Mini. Unfortunately, having such a strong lead earlier in the game, but lots of Zerg going to be streaming across the map right now and targeting this big base right here in the middle of the map. Zerg is such a weird race. This happens in TVZ too, where Zerg is down by like 60 supply, but then they come back. It's super weird. But Soulkey just being really smart. He's going to kill off that Archon. He's wasted all the storms in this base. Even though he lost a lot of units there, these follow-up Lings are probably going to be able to break this. And even more Lurkers coming in. This is so nice. And just, it's looking rough. It's looking rough. Mini's trying to hold on the best that he can, but every single time he trades with Zerg, it's worse for him unless he just completely annihilates it. So this push is eventually going to be cleaned up, but there's only a Reaver left, and more units just flooding around across the map. More Lings. There's the GG. Mini, despite having such a great lead in the early game, is going to fall to Soulkey in game 1.